Welcome to Access Granted, the podcast powered by Ablr that delves into disability inclusion, equity, and accessibility. I'm your host, Mike Iannelli. Today, we're thrilled to welcome two special guests, John Samuel, CEO of Ablr, and Courtney Henderson, Senior Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Ulta Beauty. Courtney will share insights on Ulta's groundbreaking partnership with Ablr to launch company-wide disability inclusion training. Tune in to discover how Ulta Beauty is leading the way toward a more accessible future in the beauty industry.
I want to first say thank you for being here. You know, Ulta Beauty is a huge brand, and obviously, as you know, we're a small organization, but we're thrilled to work with you all. And more importantly, the impact, you said 55,000 associates who are going to be educating themselves on etiquette and inclusive language. And it really is such an amazing feeling, because the first time we spoke, as an organization that's mission driven, you can't accomplish all the things you want to accomplish without amazing people and amazing organizations. And that is just a fact. And we are only here because of the amazing companies we work with. Before, we're jumping in, I want to hear a little bit about you. And I know our audience does, and everybody at Ulta does. Talk about your journey into Ulta and what got you into the DEI realm.
Yeah. Well, first, I want to say thank you for just, inviting me and being open to a partnership. I'm really excited about it. And a similar feeling in how you stated that, it takes companies to want to partner with you. It takes experts like you to want to partner with us to help educate us. We couldn't do it alone. So I'm really grateful to be here. So my name's Courtney Henderson. I have the pleasure of serving as the Senior Director of DEI at Ulta Beauty. And I've been there for about 4 years now. And so I started in summer of 2020. Ulta Beauty at the time had a DEI team. I was looking for a change. Before joining Ulta Beauty, I had started my career in the advertising industry. So I started off in account management, worked on KFC as a brand. I started off with that, and it was just one of those things where I wasn't really actively thinking about DEI, but when I looked around at who else was present around a table in meetings that I was in, I really didn't see the representation of myself. And so I try to gather different communities together to help support each other on our career journeys. And I would go to our HR department at the time and talk about expanding our recruiting efforts. I was super junior, but they listened. At one point, I kind of fell into HR. They invited me to join the recruiting team, and I did. And the office at the time didn't have a DEI department. And so I was working in recruiting, but also kind of had this side hustle of doing DEI for my company and trying to figure out, what we needed to do to ensure that people's voices were represented. And so that kind of led me into really doing DEI work. And I loved it. I loved the company. I loved the start that I had, but I was really looking for a bigger impact. And as you mentioned, Mike, earlier, like Ulta Beauty is a huge brand, and the impact that you can have not only on our 55,000 plus associates, but also the guests that walk into our store every day, and ensuring that they have an inclusive experience, and that, beauty, we like to say, is inherently diverse. So making sure that they have a way to self-express their beauty of choice is really important. So that's kind of what led me to Ulta Beauty.
Ulta stands for so much more than just selling products.
We actually made champion diversity as a value. We have about 7 values at Ulta Beauty that we live and breathe by. And so champion diversity is one of ours. I started about 4 years ago. We had an existing DEI team. I think it wasn't too long after the introduction to the value that we actually started a team that was 100% committed and focused on DEI and really building. The thing that I love about Ulta Beauty, and was frankly a little pleasantly surprised about, is how passionate our associates is what we call our employees, but how passionate our associates were about DEI and how much they leaned in to create and to help push our journey forward. It's been a really great journey for me, and I've just been trying to find ways that we can continue to tap into that passion that our associates have. I tell people at Ulta Beauty always is, DEI it takes a village. DEI teams typically at companies are smaller, and I can't do the work on my own. So I use a lot of partners. So I'm not an expert in marketing. I'm not an expert in merchandising. And so we have a governance. So I invite leaders from these different departments at Ulta Beauty, and then they're responsible for that part of our DEI strategy to help push us forward.
Okay.
So it's not just a team of 4 people, but it's actually a team of like hundreds of people.
Sort of like an ERG kind of situation.
Yeah, well, when we do have, we call them BRGs at Ulta Beauty, but
Okay.
we do have those as well. And so they're all kind of like working together.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we call them DEI champions is kind of like how I group everybody together. But, we couldn't do the work that we do without them and do it in such a big way.
I think it's pretty amazing how the leadership has been listening to the associates, right?
Yeah.
And what do you think is about the culture at Ulta that the leaders are listening?
So one of the sayings that we have, or it's not even a saying, it's a practice, is we lead with heart. So we have a leadership model, and that's like at the center of it. And I think that is really one of the reasons why our leaders do listen, is because it's really how we practice leadership. We do have a lot of listening sessions. We do have a lot of like feedback surveys so that we can hear what our associates need. And honestly, like some of our best ideas and innovations come from our associates.
That's awesome.
They're closest a lot of the time on the ground floor, talking to our guests and hearing what our guest needs are, hearing what kind of products they would like to see in our store. So it really is beneficial for us to make sure that we're listening to our associates.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. It's so funny. I was going to ask the same question. Everything that I've seen and heard is that Ulta is not only leading the way in cosmetics, but they're leading the way in culture. And do you find that to be a true statement?
I do. It's the best culture that I've ever worked at. There's something to say when you interview with a company and you get a good vibe, you never know if it's really how it's going to be when you start working. And so, I mean, I interviewed at Ulta and I felt like I had found a new best friend. But I was like, well, that's just, how they outwardly face. It for sure isn't going to be like this when I, come into the office. And when I started in 2020. So, it was a remote environment. And even then, you feel the culture and just the people are so genuine. They bring so much joy with them. Yes, it's like beauty products and hair care and things like that. But it all centers around this idea of self-care. And so that also is a part of the conversations that we have. And I think if we are taking care of our own needs, then it helps us show up better, then gives us, a better culture in general.
When you talk about the culture, I can experience it with Nico.
Yeah.
When I first met Nico, who actually, Mike, you were talking about how Ablr has grown because of our clients, but I also think it's our partners in the community. And so
100%.
Was introduced to Nico by one of our partners over at East Texas Lighthouse. She met Nico, and Nico, he was so intentional about wanting to have people with lived experiences on the accessibility team. And that's what drove him, to be connected to me. And we had this, this conversation. And that very first time talking to Nico, you could feel that culture you're talking about. The way he talked about Ulta and how much he's grown with the company. And I think that's one of the things. It's the company invested in him, and he's investing in the company. And I think when you look at Ulta's growth over the last several years, it's one of the fastest growing companies in the world. Yeah. And I think it really does come to the culture. And so what's one thing that you've been so proud of that Ulta's done in the DEI space in the last 4 years?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
That worked. That was pretty good. You hear the ticket? All right. Don't cut that out. That was fun.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. I will have to say, first, Nico is one of my favorites, and he is so passionate.
He really
is. He's passionate, but he also knows how to drive growth and be disruptive and ask the right questions and meet the right people in order to make things happen. And so I'm super appreciative of him. Just getting to know you, John. And then I think if I had to choose one thing that I'm most proud of, we launched business resource groups, or BRGs. And that we launched that. They're about 2 years old. Before that, we had a different structure. It wasn't exactly BRGs. We called it our Champions Network. So if you kind of mushed all the BRGs together and had a group of people, that's kind of what we had. So one of the things that I'm probably most proud of is the launch of our BRGs and how much impact that they've had since they have started. Yes, they're doing, we celebrate different key moments in time, and, they're producing wonderful educational events and toolkits for those, but they're also looking at our brand founders. We have a lot of brand founders at Ulta Beauty. We have a lot of products that are sold in our stores. Not everybody is equal, right? Like some brands might have a plethora of different products in their stores. Some might only have one or two, and maybe that's all that they produce. But we have brand partners that kind of align with the different communities within our BRGs. They've taken it upon themselves to make sure that they're getting more representation so that guests know about them, as well as associates, so that they can better represent them when they're on the floor with our guests. And so it's some of those business areas that they're also impacting that probably makes me really the most proud. And they're influencing our culture.
What do you think makes the Ulta experience so that everybody wants to be part of? Because it's amazing.
I think just our people that we have that work in our stores are really passionate about, beauty and self-care, and they want to share that with the guests that come into our stores. So Ulta Beauty is also unique in the fact that we have a salon in our stores, and we also have estheticians, so you can get facials too. And so I go to Ulta Beauty to get my hair done, and that is something that makes Ulta Beauty unique, I think, for our guests. And I mean, even the trust that my stylist has built with me over the years that I'm going in there. I mean, if she tells me about a certain product, whether or not it has to do with hair care, I'm going to buy it. And she truly is mentioning that because she knows me, she knows what I like, what I need, and she cares. And I think it's that element of, just genuinely caring about other people while also being passionate about, the brand and the products that you're representing.
Yeah, I think it's funny when you say that. I kept thinking of our team.
Yeah, caring and passion. Yeah.
You can brand Ulta all day long. You can hire all the best people in the world, but if they don't carry through that passion, that empathy, that desire to do really good work at no matter what they do, that is culture. That gets people jazzed about what they're doing. And I love that. I absolutely love that about your brand. And last night I was thinking about what am I going to ask you? And then I was like, explain the Ultification process. Because I want an Ablerification process, but I remember the first time you're like, we like to Ultify. And we jumped on that, John. We're like, Ultify, but okay. So, and you're going to Ultify Ablr's training. Take us through that.
It's such a Ulta Beauty word.
And we're going to take it. We're going to Ablify things. Absolutely.
I think when you have a company that has such a strong brand that you want to be able to take different content or different pieces and make sure that your brand is still represented so that you have brand consistency throughout. So we use that word of we need to Ultify this with partners just to make sure, we're using our pink and orange, and we're using kind of, even down to sometimes our music is just, I think Mike, you alluded to this, we're kind of bubbly people, we're very joyful. And so whether it's just internal or external, but everything that we produce has our culture that rings through it. And it's one of the things that I'm so grateful about our partnership, that you all gave us the ability and you were flexible with us so that we could Ultify it. Obviously showcasing the fact that we are partnering with Ablr. We want to be upfront about that within the training, but just being able to make sure that people see our brand and has our brand stamp of approval through the Ultification process.
I get why Ablr and Ulta are partnering, because that's us. We're huggy people. We hug, we love. And, in terms of the Ultifying, you have a great team supporting you in doing that. Can you share about that team who's doing this?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It takes a village. So I have an amazing team at Ulta Beauty that works just within like the DEI team, but also this is a lot of the people you all met when we've been on calls are people that we partner with that aren't technically on our DEI team. Like that's how passionate people are. Jessica is on our learning and development team. She's incredibly passionate about DEI and kind of like raised her hand about a year or so ago and help rebrand our DEI training that we do. She, I think even on the call, shared just like some of her personal like sentiments and stories too with the team and is really excited about this partnership in the same way that Nico is. She's really the one that does like the heavy lifting of like altifying things. But she in a way like really does help carry our brand through within our training. And she doesn't do just DEI training, but she helps produce leadership training within Ulta Beauty as well. And is really the one that like helps give that voice to our brand in the altification process. But yeah, she's a genius in how she puts everything together.
Execution is key, but it's hard, right? You got this new course, you got Ultify it. Now you got to get it out there. Now you got to get out there and make sure it's a follow through, followed by all, right? Concept. And I know a lot of times traditional corporate training, kind of blah. I mean, I remember when I was forced to take it. There you go, forced to take it. I mean, truthfully, it's terrible. Yeah, it is. But I just have this belief that our content, it's just so good, you know, and it's done by people that have lived the experience, and it's like authentic, it's genuine, and it's like hours of just interviews and discussions, and the components are short. They get you in, they get you out. And we get you learning. And so, like, what was it? Like, what was it that said, hey, you know, this is different. This is unique. Or was it just because you like John? I just can't figure out.
So much of what you said is true, but I can tell you. So I think Nico introduced us, and then we wanted to just see the training just to get like a feel of it before we made a decision of like, okay, do we continue maybe down this path? We knew that we wanted to educate our associates on disability inclusion, but we just didn't know like the best route to take yet. And so I remember when I was going through the training that you all produced, I mean, I don't even think I was a quarter of the way in, and I was like, yeah, this is going to work for us. There is so much synergy. I think, John, you were mentioning just the team that you all have is, you know, bubbly, is energetic and passionate, and that comes through within the training. But for our associates, what they respond really well to, so that they're not just like clicking through the training on the screen, is personal stories and being able to live through an experience. And that is one thing that I thought was so beautiful about the Ablr training is you have people from the community that are representing and teaching. And what better way is there to learn other than that?
This makes me so happy to hear.
I'm waiting for your tears, bro. I'm watching you. Do we have tissues in the office?
I know.
But it's authentic because it is, John. Say why. So say why you feel the way you feel.
We're very intentional about nothing about us without us. And so, you know, when you go through that course, it was written, designed, produced, everything. People with disabilities were in every aspect of that. And we were so intentional about wanting to share the stories of people, right? So you're right. It's these stories. It's not just about talking at. We're talking with you. We're having a conversation. And it makes me so happy to hear that you enjoyed that. And that was one of the things that brought you in, because we were so intentional. I was like, this will work. I promise. This is a good way of doing it, because it's a little bit different.
It's the right way of doing it.
It's the right way. And it's a little bit different than other trainings. So thank you. It makes me, and I am a crier, so then Mike knows.
Cry.
We're going to both be here crying together.
Dude, I cry all the time, every day, 4 or 5 times. This is so nice to talk to people that really want to do good in life and to do good for others in life, and to have conviction to follow through. We believe that this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
When you look out on the horizon from an inclusion perspective, what do you see? What's the future look like?
That's a big question.
No, it is a big question, but it's just in your heart. Like, what's your appetite for the continuing of staffing diverse employees and opening your mindsets up to what the capabilities of folks with disabilities can do at a company like Ulta.
We've been on this journey looking at disability inclusion for a couple of years. And I believe in taking small steps, like small steps matter, because a lot of people think of DEI and they're like, I want big change now. And it always takes time. But if you're consistently taking the steps forward that are needed, you can get to the big change. So we started with, recognizing key moments and doing small educational pieces there. There are some nonprofits that we partner with or started to partner with. And so I think this training, it's a pivotal moment where we're training all 55,000 plus associates about disability inclusion, because the thought is, we have these wonderful BRGs. We have 6 of them right now. We want to introduce one for the disability inclusion community. But before we can do that, there's just some groundwork that we needed to make sure that we were doing to be responsible. We'll have this training. We're hoping that, we have some people that we've identified that are highly passionate about this community, want to do work in it, because our BRGs truly, they were intentionally named as business resource groups because we want them to impact our business. Yep. Then it's looking at what's the roadmap? What do we need to work on? One of the things, actually, when I was interviewing at Ulta Beauty, they were talking about their values. And one of the values that they shared was improve always. And it's one that I really like because it's something that I have as a personal value. And I think, at Ulta Beauty, or for our DEI team especially, we're pretty open to getting feedback and understanding where we might be misstepping or where we have gaps at. And so I think that that's going to be a really important part of this journey, is understanding where are the gaps, and then working with this BRG to help us fill in those gaps so that we can change lives. I also believe in, for DEI work, we need to take care of home first, and then we go out and talk about it, and then we go out and start taking care of other people. But if our people don't feel taken care of, then they're not going to want to take care of other people in our name. And so I think that there are some things that we need to make sure that this community feels seen, heard, valued, and taken care of, and then we can start doing some more work with maybe our guests and further into our communities.
One of the things at Ablr that we're doing is we have a workforce development program to train individuals who are blind to get into upward mobility in their employment. And so now, with a lot of interviews being virtual, I mean, we've been talking with Estee Lauder for a good while now, and they actually have a very interesting application called the Virtual Makeup Assistant, the VMA, and it's using AI to help people who are blind put on makeup. But if you had one beauty tip for us, because the majority of our candidates are women, what makeup tip would you give, or beauty routine tip would you give for our candidates as they're preparing for virtual interviews?
That's a good one.
Great question.
Here's my overarching tip. I think you have to be comfortable with whatever you're choosing to represent, your self-expression of yourself, and you have to be authentic in who that is. I think as long as you're showing up as your authentic self, and and you're showing up in a way that you're comfortable, and you feel represent yourself, that's what I would say. So it's not one specific tip, but it's more about just being comfortable with who you are, because then when you feel good at how you're representing or self-expressing yourself, then I feel you can really shine in your interview.
That's really good, right? Because I think that's what our team is trying to do, is build that confidence, help our candidates feel good. Because you're right, the better you feel going into that interview, the better you're going to do.
Yeah.
That's a really good question and very good advice.
You asked us, what's your favorite beauty routine?
Oh, yeah. So
God, he's coming right at you right now.
I know. I love it. My husband calls it my uniform, which is sweats at home. And so I get into my uniform at home, and I take off my makeup. And so Alicia Keys has a skincare line called, I think it's Keys Soul Care or something that. And on her product, she actually has some affirmations that you can say as you're, and so as you're taking off your makeup and taking care of yourself through that process, you can look at her affirmations that she has. And so that's one of my favorite beauty routines. It's just being able to, like, at the end of the day, like, take that breath, that sigh, and consider all of the things that I accomplished within the day and just kind of be able to relax.
Well, when you're doing that and you want some more affirmations, my son Eli, his favorite song is the Snoop Dogg affirmation song.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So,
I am familiar.
All right, can we get that playing right now?
I think if we play a little bit, clip,
Yeah, we'll clip that. So basically, would you call what you just expressed de-ultification?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I should introduce it into Ulta Beauty.
Yeah. We come in, we ultify at the end of the day. Woo,
de-ultify
we're
that.
de-ultifying. God, you don't want to know at the end of the day. With affirmations. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like me. Do you remember that?
Right. Yes,
You know, do you?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. I find I age myself a lot these days. And this is really more selfishly for us. But what was your first impression of Ablr and the team?
Oh gosh. It's so funny because I think when we first got on a call, it just felt like I was having a meeting with just Ulta Beauty associates. I do feel like there's so much synergy and so much similarity to how our cultures are. We had an hour-long meeting, and the first half hour was just like sharing our stories and why we were passionate about this partnership and what we were about to embark on. And I mean, there might have been some tears from some people on the call, which I think is just so special because I mean, I think you all talk about, vulnerability and the importance of it. And that builds so much connection. And I feel like coming out of that meeting, even though it was our first time, really getting to know each other, I felt like I knew you all so well and connected with you. And that just doesn't happen a lot in the business world. So I had an incredible first impression, and every single time that we have met since, I've been excited to meet with you all, excited to email with you all. It feels like you all are a part of our team.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I completely agree, and that is very kind of you to say. And we absolutely were so excited when we got off the phone. We're like, I just feel like this is family, And it is rare. So thank you for that. Thank you for being vulnerable to welcome us in.
I've really enjoyed this journey with you all. It's been great.
My last question for you would be, what advice could you give to other organizations and people sitting in a similar seat that you're sitting in about how to have that conviction and how to follow through with what you believe in your heart that's right?
I think sometimes what we try to do as humans, we try to have all of the answers, or we expect that of ourselves, which is an unkind thing to do to ourselves. And so I think it's really important to reach out to other people that might represent different communities and ask them to help support you. And I think that even if you're sitting in a room and people are telling you no, and they might have a higher title or whatever have you, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're right. And I think reminding yourself of that in the room when you are trying to find a yes. Everybody is in a different part within their DEI journey.
Yep.
Meet them where they are, understand what's important to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will just say thank you again for being here. We are humbled every day, grateful every day, and we'll continue to do what we do. But I from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you for representing Ulta Beauty, and thanks for doing what you do.
Thanks for tuning in to Access Granted, and a big thank you to Courtney Henderson for sharing Ulta Beauty's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. We are immensely proud to work with companies like Ulta Beauty, which are paving the way top-down with forward-thinking partnerships to ensure inclusion is at the forefront of their company values. If you're a like-minded group ready to make meaningful moves to prioritize inclusion at your organization, contact us at Ablr360.com. Ablr's innovative solutions and services are designed to empower the lives of people with disabilities and are a testament to our commitment to inclusivity. We're eager to talk with you about how we can collaborate, leverage our expertise and your unique perspective to impact more lives and drive more positive change together.